What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the review and discussion for UnOrdinary episode 326. 325. Anyway, uh, so this episode is really, really good. It's a talking episode, and that's not bad at all, honestly. This episode has some pretty cool developments, and it kind of sets up for what I think is going to be happening next in the series to kind of get us to the season finale, which does just seem like it's definitely going to be John meeting his uncle for the first time. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this, starting off with talking about the episode. Starts out with John reaching out to William, but obviously gets no answer. So I am wondering if John is just reaching out to William, and if Adrian. I have a feeling that that we will see Adrian reach back out to John and basically say like, "Hey, your dad's still not here." So there's that, and John's gonna find out the truth eventually, one way or another, but he's still worried about his dad. But he's saying, hey, at least Sarah's coming back to school soon, so everything's fine, no need to worry. We then cut to the safe house where John enters in and sees that, and we find out that everyone is watching a news broadcast that is labeling Sarah and Layla as members of Spectre being wanted for attacking citizens at Cafe Royal, or Royal Cafe, whatever it is. But every bureau member being dressed as citizens, civilians, kind of really backfired on them, so that sucks. But John immediately goes to find Arlo to find out what happened. We then see Arlo walking around school when Zeke starts to compliment Arlo, saying that, kind of talking to like, hey, it's really impressive how you did that. Like, I should really pick up some things from you. Then says how it's amazing that Arlo will do anything to climb the ranks, like his family connections, using his boss, and even turning on everyone at Wellston, like Sarah, after all they've been through. Arlo immediately retaliates with, I'm fairly positive, a brand new move, as he launches a barrier wall at Zeke, kind of similar to what Valerie did in the fight against Spectre, when they raided the Spectre facility. But he slams a wall. It seems kind of to be like in a square shape as opposed to his usual round shape, so that's really cool. I wonder if he is starting to kind of take after Valerie's ability and everything. But knocks Zeke into a wall when Arlo grabs him and tells him that, basically says like, hey, you're not tough shit just because you work with the Bureau with me. Show some respect. And Zeke informs Arlo like, hey, I am showing respect to you, but as he informs everyone around that Arlo is the talk of the office about how he tricked Sarah to get Spectre locations and then tried to ambush her even after she helped. John shows up, unfortunately hearing Zeke. And I gotta say, why does anyone, and I mean, I'm not talking about just John, I mean anyone, why does anyone ever believe a word that Zeke says? They always fall for like his words. And like, I everyone should know by now that Zeke is just a fucking piece of shit, yet everyone still, for some reason, believes like what he says for like a few seconds, and it's like, why? But John shows up and he hears Zeke and he asks Arlo like, what the hell is he talking about? Arlo then just gets up, walks past John, and just says, not here. And so John walks off with him, and then Zeke sees them walking together and wonders why they're on talking terms. Arlo then tells Arlo, clearly upset, he blames Arlo, but Arlo fairly retaliates that he's done a lot for everyone, and then he questions why John is still questioning his own integrity, which is very fair. I get why John is upset. I get why he's angry. John is very prone to anger and to jump to the worst conclusions. Totally get that. That is definitely in line with John's character. But Arlo also brings up an incredibly fair point that he's done a lot for them, and he doesn't, and they're still choosing to question if he's really on their side. And I kind of want to also point out that, like, what I said in last week's review and discussion, where Arlo has done a lot for everyone, and they've not necessarily returned the favor, unfortunately. So yeah, it is kind of interesting. Again, Valerie, like I said last week, Valerie made an incredibly fair point, all things considered. But yeah, it is. But a nice touch is that John does kind of like let up a little bit. He's kind of like, okay, like what happened? Like what went down? Arlo then tells John that Sarah was given a fair deal. He did see it initially as a fair deal. He was kind of like looking at her like, just take the damn deal. But John says if she refused, it must have been a really bad, or like a really shitty deal. And to us, the audience, it was, because we know what the authorities are about. And this was also really interesting because Arlo states that it was very generous. Now, like I said, he did kind of like just look at Sarah with the mentality of like, just take the deal, just do it, just like let's get this over with. But during his discussion with Valerie after Sarah had managed to escape, he did say back then, you could have tried to be more lenient with her. You could have tried to negotiate more. To which Valerie said, and he kind of repeats what Valerie said, like, she stole government technology and helped a terrorist organization to overthrow us. Like, we can't be lenient with her. So it's very interesting that I think this is kind of like a little showing that once again, Valerie's cracks in Arlo's armor are starting to sink in and become wider. He is starting to take after her a little bit more. And he was seen earlier in the episode thinking on the words that she left him with, like, what have they done for you? Or why are you wanting to defend them so much? So yeah, she is clearly starting to take a toll on Arlo. John then asks, after Arlo kind of lets everything up with her, he asks what they're supposed to do now, what the next step is. And Arlo just says she has to hide if she doesn't want to be executed. And then John just kind of takes that in like, are you kidding me? We were so close. Like, we can figure something else out. We can think of another plan. And Arlo then tells John that Arlo himself, is really close to getting locked up because he tried to help Sarah. Now, Arlo then just tells John, like, let me go, back off now. And John does, thankfully. He does kind of just let up, and Arlo starts to leave, but he leaves John with a warning. That warning being, he may want to lay low, because if the Bureau finds out that he is also an informant with Spectre, they will come after John as well. And we see Arlo walk off, but we also see Zeke leave, and we've got another shot as well. We got another shot also that he's been listening to this conversation, listening on everything. And as Arlo leaves, John activates his ability in his anger, and boom, punches a wall. But he does something very cool. He enhances his strength, crushing part of the wall as it caves in a little bit. Now, a lot of people have been saying he just copied Arlo and Zeke's ability. We've seen him do it without his ability active before, we've seen him do something similar before. I'm still saying that too much time passed between Arlo and Zeke having their abilities activated for John to have copied it with his ability not being active. So I'm still saying that John enhanced his strength, and I'm saying that we're getting a new upgrade for John, or an enhancement, a new technique, an improvement to John's ability. I'm still saying that what Dot gave John was not a dud for John. Because another thing I also want to point out, Uru showcased a new technique for Arlo this episode, so I'm calling it that we're seeing a slight improvement to John's ability as well. Now, whether or not this is just him enhancing his strength or just being able to recall certain abilities without needing them active, I don't know. But who knows? I'm saying it right now. I'm saying it right now. One last thing that I want to touch on. Zeke is incredibly dangerous. I brought this up in the reaction, but Zeke is actually a pretty good villain, all things considered. He's not the strongest, but he has the right connections now, and he's kind of the person that the authorities are looking for. Doesn't really give a shit about low tiers, doesn't, just basically wants his own power and everything. So I definitely think that Zeke is going to use that information on John to kind of get his own promotions, and kind of I do still say Zeke will be joining Ember, and he will get access to amplifiers. So Zeke is very dangerous. Now, I do think before John can be captured by the Bureau, I think Cameron will be stepping in, going to see John and taking him away from school. And yeah, overall, this episode is honestly really, really good. And I'm both excited and scared to see what comes next. But with all of that being said, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. This episode is definitely a level 8.5. It is really good. But with all that being said, guys, let me know what you think down below in the comments, and I will see you all next time. So as always, see you, Space Cowboy.